Welcome to the In Love with PMDD podcast. I am your host, Dr. Rose, your PMDD relationship psychotraumatologist, and I help you stop the monthly PMDD breakups. PMDD is premenstrual dysphoric disorder. It is in approximately 1 in 5 women, and it makes you want to break up with your partner approximately 1 to 2 weeks before your period every single month. So as someone who has suffered with PMDD for over 18 years, I dedicated my doctorate practice to helping partners navigate those monthly PMDD breakups with everything from attachment styles, triggers, sensitivity to noise, sensitivity to touch, all of the things that you really struggle with when you're in PMDD. And I also dedicated my dissertation to a phenomenological study of the relationship experiences of partners of individuals who suffer with premenstrual dysphoric disorder. So I'm not just here to help the sufferer, the one who is suffering with PMDD. I am here for the partners as well. So if you need those private sessions, make sure you go to inlovewithpmdd.com and get those tools. So let's get into this week's PMDD trauma transformational tools that is going to help you stop the monthly breakups and stop the suffering and stress in your PMDD relationship. Let's get into it. Today, we are going to be asking that very important question: is your masculine and feminine energy cyclic in PMDD? Your mind is going to be blown by the research that has been done within this episode alone. I am so excited to talk about this, mainly because this is something that happened earlier in my journey with my PMDD partner, where I was recognizing when I was talking about attachment styles and I was doing my dissertation on it, and I was noticing I was having a different attachment style when I was in PMDD versus when I was in my follicular, my good days. And so when I was started to do that comparison of the cyclic nature of the attachment styles as a researcher, getting my doctorate, I said, I want to really go in depth to understand what else is cyclic with PMDD, right? Because this is an undiscovered area of PMDD and research is not being done. And I was like, it's like my job at this point to figure out what else is PMDD affecting in our lives that we're just not aware of, because that's what's the damaging part, is when PMDD is affecting certain areas of our life and we're not knowing that it's PMDD. So we're thinking it's either ourselves or we're thinking it's something else. And until we know what it is, we can't have tools for it. We can't do anything about it. And we begin to think something's wrong with us. But here's what I want to tell you. You can have, and I've done the research on this, and I've done the studies on this. When I say done the research, I've created the research on this, and I'm super excited to get this in the literature. And that is masculine and feminine energy tends to be cyclic with PMDD. It's like I'm doing the mind-boggling image. I'm like, can you believe that there's another thing that we have to monitor when it comes to PMDD, as far as when you're in PMDD, you're one way, and when you're out of PMDD, you're another way. This had to do with me not being satisfied. This is where it originated. I was in a place with my PMDD partner, and I was like, something has to change, because my PMDD partner is not being supportive in these particular areas. And I had this long laundry list of ways that my PMDD partner was not showing up for me. But I distinctly remember at some point he was. That's the point that got me to do the research, because I'm like, I wouldn't have been with a person who wasn't providing, who wasn't protecting, who wasn't showing up, who wasn't consistent. These are things that I value, but now they're seemingly gone. So I'm all about living in the dash. What happened in the middle? What happened? And so when I did the research on this, I always start with myself, because when it comes to PMDD, what I learned as a researcher, as a doctor, I have to create the blank slate. The blueprint is not there. I am creating the blueprint. So if I was to spend days and hours and weeks searching for the answer, it wouldn't be there. So I'm starting from scratch. This is essentially like a startup company, right? And so I'm like, okay, where did this originate from? At one point, he did have the masculine energy that I am very much attracted to. And this has nothing to do with gender. So I just want to preface, whether you're male or female, binary, whatever it is, you can have masculine and feminine energy. I just want to let you know that it's cyclic, that it can be, and that it is a possibility, because it is with me, that when you go into PMDD, that rhymes, when you go into PMDD, you can have masculine and or feminine energy. So the first thing I do is test myself. I research on myself, and then I do so on my clients. And so that's when I learned that you can go from masculine to feminine energy based off of PMDD. And so when I go into PMDD, I have masculine energy. When I have a secure attachment and I'm not in PMDD, I am leaning into the feminine energy. But it could be the complete opposite. You could have masculine energy in your follicular days, your good days, you're getting everything done. And then all of a sudden you go into PMDD and you really lean into that feminine energy where you're just wanting more support, wanting more help. You're not trying to push, you're needing more support from your PMDD partner. And neither one of them are right or wrong, but I want you to realize that it can be cyclic, because I noticed the distinct difference where I had the same level of responsibility. Nothing in my life changed. It was my perception of it once I got into PMDD, and my behaviors and actions followed it. And so I really want to allow you to be aware of this. I am spreading awareness on what is shifting for you in PMDD, because that is the first step in you doing something about it. If you don't know what's going on with you, then you can't really do anything about it. It's just like when you first found out that you had PMDD. It's like you may have gone through years, like some of my clients, where you just knew that something was off, but you didn't quite know what it was. And then when you finally knew what it wasn't like you're cured. It's not like a video game where you reach that level and then all of a sudden, oh, you discovered it. You have PMDD and you're cured. It was more so of, now that I have an understanding, I'm at ground zero. I'm at level 1. I can now start to find tools to manage what it is that I'm actually going through. And that is what I am creating. And that is what I'm sharing in depth with the PMDD Partners Breakup Proof Academy. So if you've not joined, you need to join, because it is the education that you need, but is not out there. So there's nobody teaching you about what to do with your PMDD relationship. And that's why I created the academy. We're just now learning what PMDD is. We're in the brink of it. So we're in the beginning stages of really having counselors, therapists, psychotherapists, psychologists, gynecologists, all of these medical professionals just learning what PMDD is. So we're not even getting into the cusp of relationships, right? That's not the priority. And I can tell you that from behind the scenes, BTS, behind the scenes of what I have access to see from getting my doctorate. That's not the priority right now. The priority is understanding the disorder enough to even find what they're trying to find, which is a cure or even a medicine that's specifically for PMDD, not something that is used for something else that PMDD may also be affected by, but like a specific thing for PMDD. You have to think, this has not been done. This could take years. And so relationships are not on their priority because it's not a chemical hormonal thing. So if you're waiting for that tool to come out outside of what I'm doing here, that could take years. And my concern is the survival rate of intimate relationships when we're talking about dealing with PMDD. So I would hate for you to wait. I'm rhyming today. I'm a poet. I would hate for you to wait years and years and years for a tool that is coming out in this PMDD community for your relationship and it had not survived. Like it couldn't survive the wait. Because I know for me, when I was having my PMDD monthly breakups, which is, horrible and daunting and frustrating and all the things, I thought it was the end every single month. So talking about years was not a thing. I'm like, we barely survived March of this year. I started to count it down where it's like March of 2020. Like, I'm so glad I'm done with PMDD March of 2020. Like, that's how iconic those monthly breakups were. I was like marking them down. And so I want you to really understand that the Breakup Proof Academy is here for you to learn the things that are not being taught. This is not in any university. This is not in any research. This is researched by me, but it is not out there for counselors, psychotherapists, all of the people. And so I don't want you to suffer in the meantime. I'm not saying it never will be. I strongly believe and hope that it will be, but right now it's not. And so that's why I created the Breakup Proof Academy, so you can have a place to go to learn these PMDD trauma transformational tools to save your relationship, right? Okay, so getting into this, the masculine and the feminine energy. And I know so many times when, on social media, everyone's talking about it. I am specifically talking about it in relation to PMDD. Everything I do is customized to PMDD partners. So what I've noticed is when I got into PMDD, me specifically, so you're going to see yourself in two different categories, and I'm going to describe both of them. But I'm going to first describe to you what it looks like to be in the masculine energy. Then I'm going to describe to you what it looks like to be in the feminine energy. And I'm going to describe to you how that impacts your intimate relationship with your PMDD partner. And I was not aware of this, like, at the time, because I thought I was doing the right thing. The masculine energy for me was turned into this positive thing. So I remember a comment that my PMDD partner made when we were dating, and he was saying, because he was in his masculine energy. When I first met my PMDD partner, he was very much in his masculine energy. And I'll tell you about what that looks like in a minute. But I was so attracted to that because I was in a place where I was in my masculine energy as well. But you get burnt out. You get burnt out being in that masculine energy sometimes. And so I was in that place where I was not wanting to do everything. And so he was that provider, that protector. He made decisions. He was really confident, in control, very affectionate, all of these things that I was very much attracted to. And over time, I ruined it by being so far in my masculine energy that I de-emasculated him, and he just adjusted to that by being with me and leaning into his feminine energy. He let go of his masculinity because I made it seem like that was the only way to be with me. So let's get into really understanding about this in the realms of, forget what you know about masculine and feminine energy and on the basic level, right? Everything I teach you here is customized, is specialized. It's kind of the difference between going to a general practitioner and a specialized practitioner. When you're going to the doctor, how your primary care doctor refers you to the specialist. That's what I am. I am a specialist in PMDD relationships. So everything that I'm telling you is not based on relationships. It's based on PMDD relationships. So when you look at the masculine energy, which I was very much into, and I didn't even know it. Like, I thought it has nothing to do with what you wear. Because I was dressing up, I wore heels, I wore makeup, my hair was good. I wasn't like in this like scrub-a-dub kind of way where I didn't care about myself. I thought by looking like I was in feminine energy, I was in feminine energy. And that's when I learned that feminine and masculine energy have nothing to do with what you look like. You can completely be in feminine energy and dress in like a suit. And I love that. I love nothing more than seeing someone switch their masculine and or feminine energy by how they look, because it's such a power move. And that's what I want to tell you today. Like if I have the ability, which I strongly do when I'm in PMDD, to be in that masculine energy, I don't have to be. I can have the ability to be in that masculine energy and choose to put on a dress, to put on heels, to express myself in a way that is very feminine, even though I have the capability within myself to be masculine. That is the power. When you know that you can be a certain way, you can say that comment to your partner, you can do that thing, but you're choosing not to, right? So masculine energy, it's a concept, and it goes back to the spiritual realm, right? Self-help teachings, and it basically describes a couple of things, 5 basic things. And if you see yourself in these things, you're probably operating in your masculine energy. And this could be when you're in PMDD or when you're in your follicular days. So the first thing is assertiveness in action. So when you're in your masculine energy, you're taking initiative, you're being really goal-oriented, you value having a sense of purpose every single day, you're focused on achieving goals and problem solving and making decisions, and you're loving it. So this is the difference between you're doing it because you're doing it, or you're doing it and you're loving it. When you're operating in your masculine energy, you're wanting to do these things. I've seen so many times with private clients where their partners are requiring them to be in an energy that they genuinely don't want to be in, meaning the things that you're asking for your partners to do while you're in PMDD to be more supportive is more of the masculine energy, and they're just not in that energy. They don't enjoy making decisions. They don't enjoy problem solving. They don't want to have goals. They don't want to take initiative. They don't want to feel like they have to have a sense of purpose. And a lot of times what I've noticed is the reluctancy to do this is because they do it a lot in their career. And a lot of times when you do it in your career, you want to come home and do something different. You want to break from always doing it. And so when we're talking about assertiveness and action, that's a masculine quality. So the first thing I did when I was examining, am I in this masculine energy, which I suggest that you do as I go through these 5 qualities, I was like, do I do this? Absolutely. In my career, I do all of this. I am a boss and over a whole staff, right? So outside of what I do here for PMDD Partners, I have a whole staff of individuals that I am the boss of, and I take the initiative, and I have a lot of goals. I have to have goals. And it's part of my sense of purpose because that's my career that I've had for 20 years now. And we have objectives and we problem solve, and I make decisions. So it's kind of like, have you ever asked yourself some questions? And it's like, hey, do you have one of these symptoms? And then you literally can check them all. That was me. That was me. When I saw this, I was like, oh my gosh, I do all of this. Like masculine energy. I haven't even gone that far, and I'm already like 10 out of 10. And the next thing is logical and analytical thinking. Are you being in masculine energy means, are you being really logical? Now, this is not something that I do when I'm not at work. This is not something that I do personally, but when I go into PMDD, I begin to have very logical and analytical thinking, specifically to things that my PMDD partner has said to me and things that he's done. I'm very analytical to why did he say things? Why did he say that to me? Why did he say it that way? I'm analyzing things that he said and done. I'm making assumptions of things that he said and done in my mind. It has to make sense to me in my mind. And I automatically attach malicious intent to it. It's like, oh, he did that. Logically speaking, he said this because of this. And I'm making up these stories because I'm in that very analytical PMDD brain. So this is when you're critically thinking, and as it relates to your partner, is when you're really just picking at them. It involves the ability to evaluate situations objectively and make logical judgments. But the key word here is judgments. You are now judging your PMDD partner. This is something that I do every single month. I go into PMDD and I get into that masculine energy. I told you before, we both have an Apple Watch. And, when he doesn't work out, and I've worked out and I've burned this many calories, I burned 600 calories. He's not burned but anything but 200 calories. I get into that analytical mode and I start judging. When I'm in PMDD, I'm like, oh, he didn't do that. He didn't do his morning routine. Why didn't he do it? All of a sudden, and that can lead into a loss of respect for your PMDD partner because you're judging and you're analyzing every single thing that they're doing and they don't like it. This is what I'm telling you from having private sessions with hundreds of PMDD partners. They do not like it when you are in that space of being very judgmental and critical and logical, and it has to make sense to you. And if it doesn't make sense to you, you're looking at them with the squinty eyes. You're being very suspicious of them, and you're making them walk on eggshells, and anything that they say and do can be held against them in the court of law. They hate that, but they have to endure that while you're in PMDD because you're so judgy is what I call it. I call it just judgy because I've called myself out on it. I've judged what my PMDD partner has worn, which I never really care about. I've judged his actions. I've judged the things that he said. I've judged his career. I've judged his response to his coworkers on certain situations. Like he used to come home and tell me things about his day. And instead of me taking his side, I was the underdog. I was taking, his coworker side. Like he would tell me about an altercation with him and his coworker, like a disagreement. And I'm like, well, maybe he did this and maybe he did that. I was defending his coworker instead of defending my partner because I was in that judgy, analytical, logical mindset. I didn't even have the empathy to think that my PMDD partner was literally telling me this because he needed support and care and concern. And for me to be in my feminine energy, I was just basically stating the facts and being really logical. And it really hurt his feelings because he was needing a place where he could open up and lean in and just say what was going on with him. So this was the transition from me being in the masculine energy and him being in the feminine energy. Like, look at this situation. He's trying to come home and tell me about his day and be open and be vulnerable. He was in his feminine energy. And what did I do? I went into my masculine energy. So the next sign that you are in your masculine energy is that you have a lot of strength and resilience to pretty much go through anything. You have strength, resilience, endurance. You can handle challenges. If somebody tells you, with my daughter, I would say things like, oh, we're going to go here. She would switch it up and be like, oh, mommy, I need to do this instead. And I totally had it. Like I totally was like, that's fine. We got this. All of the things that was actually, and it still is my mantra. I don't know if you noticed that. That's me and that mantra, we got this, was created out of my masculine energy because there were so many times when I was in PMDD and I was dealing with my symptoms, but I had so many other responsibilities. And the way that I would give myself a pep talk would be to tell myself, I got this. I got this. I would look at the list of things that I had to do because I was so analytical. I would write the list out and then I would look at it and be like, I got this. And so when I'm empowering you to say, we got this, I want you to understand we got this, which is why I created the Breakup Proof, Academy, is so it wasn't I got this, which is putting all of that pressure on you to handle everything. It is a we thing. So saying we got this is way better than saying I got this, because I am more likely to be supported if I have other people that are there with me who understand what I'm going through. And the PMDD Partners Breakup Proof Academy has shown itself to do that when I've been going through a really hard time recently. and I went on one of the academy trainings, and they literally were there for me and poured into me and supported me not to break up in a time that I really was in that place where I was tempted to break up because everything just looked like that's the direction it was going in, right? How many times have we been there where it's like, I'm tired of fighting this. I'm just going to give in. I feel like I'm just going to break up. And if you don't have a community behind you that is championing you and telling you, no, you can make it through this, because sometimes it's just a matter of getting through the next day. Sometimes all you need to do is get through the next day, and then maybe the next day you get your cycle. Like for me today, that's what happened. My cycle came 2 days early. Yesterday, I was contemplating breaking up. It was horrible because my mind was so confused. I'm like, is this the right thing? I don't know. Like, I feel like everything's pointing in that direction. And the Breakup Proof Academy, I had the session and they were just like, no, like, Rose, you got this. Remember, it's temporary. And sometimes it's just that reminder of things that you already know, things that I've taught, tools that I've used. And there are times where I've taught tools before, but I forget to use them myself. And I always say that, like, oh, I forgot to use the tool. And sometimes I need that reminder. And that's what the Breakup Proof Academy has done for me. And that's what I know that it can do for you. So everything that you're learning, all of this that's on my podcast, there's no way you're downloading all of this in your brain and you're going to remember who goes what. Like, in order to fully understand my methodology, you need to immerse yourself in this community to be consistently taught this on a weekly basis. And that's what I do every single week. On Tuesdays, we have a Zoom call and I pour into you with knowledge and experience in my situation as examples for what's going on with my PMDD relationship, to let you know I'm going through it too. But the bulk of what I'm going through, I'm sharing with the community and the Breakup Proof Academy because I know that they're there for me and they're invested. That's the reason why I created it. I could have continued to share the tools here, but the workbooks, it's a deeper connection because I need to work through some things with you. And if you're not my private client, that's the best way to do it. You're either my private client or you're in the PMDD Partners Breakup Proof Academy. But these tools, you have to work through them in order to implement them into your PMDD relationship. So sometimes, a lot of times you listen to my podcast and I got this idea just from going through my DMs, because I'm on Instagram every day vlogging my life in PMDD every single day, my life in PMDD, my life not in PMDD. And it's a matter of customizing it to your specific relationship. Yes, you can relate to what I have going on, but if there's some customization that has to happen, that happens when you work privately with me. And because I only take a small amount of private clients at a time, I opened up the Breakup Proof Academy so that I can serve more PMDD partners. So you don't have to wait for a spot to open up with my private sessions. So the next sign of masculinity is one of the biggest ones for me, and that's independence and self-sufficiency. That means I can do it on my own. You have that autonomy, that self-reliance to mean I don't need you. And that's a very delicate place to be because that leads right in line with the PMDD monthly breakups. Because if I feel like I don't need you, then losing you is not something that I'm willing to put any effort towards changing. Sometimes you may get into those mindsets when you're in PMDD and you're like, oh, I'm looking for a sign it's meant to be. And you're looking on social media and those algorithms that are just, you click on one quote that has anything to do with breaking up, or you deserve better than this, or don't allow your partner to do this, or, a narcissist and manipulators and all of these things. And then next thing you know, you're down the rabbit hole of breaking up with your PMDD partner. And that's because you're in, and then you begin to envision what your life looks like without them. And it's a dangerous place to be because all it takes is for you to act out on those thoughts. And the next thing you know, you're broken up. So this is how you know you're in that masculine energy. You don't need your PMDD partner if you're in this. And this is something that I fall guilty about so many times because I don't notice it all the time. I think here's what I want to tell you. There's a fine line between self-love and self-sufficiency. And what I mean by that, self-love means that you love yourself. Self-sufficiency means I love myself and I don't need anyone else. If you're in an intimate relationship with a PMDD partner, which both of you are, a PMDD partner is someone that is navigating PMDD in the relationship. Male, female, gender, it doesn't matter. And if you're in that relationship, you're supposed to be connected. You're supposed to need them for something. So if you're in this independent mindset and you don't need them, then your relationship is going to suffer. And so the last aspect of the masculine energy is protection and providing. I was also doing this, protecting our daughter, providing for our daughter. Being that we were living apart, I was deep in my masculine energy because I was in the realm of being the provider, being the protector, making sure she had everything. And what I want to let you know is when you dive so deep in whether it's the masculine or the feminine, you're taking away your partner's ability to mirror the opposite of that. Life is all about balance, the yin and the yang. I've heard of power couples, but I still don't think a power couple is one that consists of two masculine energy people. I don't think that that's what that means, but I think that that's the expectation and the thought. And now I'm going to go into, when you get into that feminine or that masculine energy, it's empowering sometimes. And you can start to think that, oh, I'm in this masculine energy, I'm doing the right thing, because there are benefits to it. There are benefits to being in that. And sometimes when there's benefits to something, you think that you're doing the right thing. So the benefits of being in that masculine energy is that you have the individuals around you have direction and they have leadership. Guess why? Because you're always going to be leading them and telling them what to do. So that means in your intimate relationship with your PMDD partner, they're never going to have to make a decision. Right? They're never going to have to make a decision. They're never going to have to take the initiative. They're never going to have to direct the relationship as to where it's going as far as goals. You're going to be providing the clarity, the structure, and the leadership within the relationship. And initially that sounds amazing because it's like, wow, I have the steering wheel. I can drive us here. But this is what I want to let you know is that, and I've gotten to this place where, and this is when I knew I had to change. Everyone at some point, if you're on a road trip and you're the driver, you get tired and you want to go to sleep. So say if your PMDD partner was like, oh, you're going to drive the first half and then I'll sleep and then we'll switch places, but you never switch places. And so now you're tired, you're exhausted, and you look over at your PMDD partner and they're sleeping like a baby in their feminine energy. And you become resentful and you become bitter because you're the one that's leading the pack. You're the one making all the decision. And every single time you go into conflict, that's what you're going to bring up. You're going to be like, I'm the one that does this. The ego eats this stuff like Gerber. The Gerber baby food. That's one of my things I say. It eats it up like Gerber. It's like, oh yeah, because the ego will say that to you when you're in PMDD and you're having an argument, and your ego will remind you, but you did this for them. They're so ungrateful. Can you believe that they even said anything when you did this? Like now you're in the ego place. Now you're going back at them and you're feeling like not only do I not need you, but this relationship wouldn't survive without me. Look at all that I do for me. Look what I do for the relationship. Look what I do for the kids. I support all of us. This show can't run without me. So now it's the ego. The next thing that the masculine energy does, it does problem solving and decision making. So now all of a sudden, when you're going out to lunch, dinner, breakfast, you're deciding. You're having to look up everywhere you're going to go. Your PMDD partner is now asking you, where are we going for dinner? Where are we going for breakfast? Where are we going for lunch? What are we going to do for this? What are we going to do for that? Instead of them being in that masculine energy, you're making the decisions now. Strength and protection. Whenever you're out, it's physical and emotional strength. That means if your PMDD partner breaks down, you're the one that's coddling them, holding them, letting them know everything's okay, because you're in that masculine energy. You're protecting them physically and emotionally and spiritually. You're providing them with a sense of trust, like you can break down and tell me anything and be vulnerable because I'm going to be here for you. You're allowing your PMDD partner to feel supported and cared for. The next one that's in the masculine energy is, basically that honor and respect thing. When you're in that masculine energy, you value respect more than love. I'm going to repeat that. When you are in your masculine energy, you would rather have your PMDD partner respect you than to love you, because losing respect means there can be no love. And so when you're in that place and you're in your masculine energy, and your PMDD partner is not doing that, is not respecting you, it's like the end of the world for you. But I embraced all of these qualities when I was in PMDD. And you would think, oh, those are very, good qualities to have. Like everybody needs to be protected. Everybody needs a leader. Everybody needs all these things. But there is a thing called toxic masculinity. And it basically is a set of behaviors and attitudes and expectations that's associated with masculinity in a sense that it's harming you because it's restricting you from being free. And so I want you to know that if you're listening to this and you're like, oh yeah, being masculine is awesome. I don't want you to go into the realm of the toxic masculinity. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. And I think for this episode, as we go into this, because this is going to be a series, I'm just going to stick to the masculine energy and really explaining why this needs to or needed to change within me and the damage that it did for my PMDD relationship. But the first thing that was damaging, that was toxic about being in that masculine energy for me was the suppression of emotions, of not really saying what you're feeling, of feeling like you don't want to be vulnerable. You just want to be really closed off and you just shut down. You don't want to express any of the fear, any of the sadness, because you feel like that's a soft emotion. You don't want to cry. You definitely don't want to cry, which is okay. But the toxic masculinity will make you feel like it's not. And then it's really going to affect your mental health. So the next part of the toxic masculinity is aggression and violence. Getting so masculine that you feel the need to have dominance over your PMDD partner. And it basically promotes that violence is acceptable to exert power. So that means this is when your PMDD fights turn physical. When you get into PMDD rage, when you start hitting your PMDD partner and putting your hands on them. So where it translates, it goes from verbal from verbal to physical. That means you're in your toxic masculinity, because not only are you portraying yourself to be bigger than your PMDD partner, but you're showing that by how you're treating them physically. And when you get to this place about, the next one is that shows that you're in that masculine energy, is the social pressure to be the man, that guy, all of these things. Whether you're male or female, you can have this masculine energy, but it's this pressure of performance where you feel like you always have to prove your masculinity through achievements, through sexual endeavors, where you feel like You have to achieve certain things at work in order to prove that you're in that masculine energy, you're the man or you're the leader. And you have to prove it when you are in intimate situations where you have to be the one that allows your PMDD partners to climax. You have to be the one that's providing the pleasure. They can't have pleasure unless you're the one that's orchestrating it. And the toxic masculinity is a sense of dominance. But what internally within the person that is displaying that toxic masculinity, there is a sense of I'm not good enough. There's a sense of low self-esteem. And it's also a sense of a lack of self-expression. They're not really expressing who they really are. They're just expressing what they think that they need to be in order to have that dominance and that respect of being in that masculine energy. So it's like I'm willing to act out of character in order to get the respect that I so desperately need. And in this episode, now that you know what the masculine energy looks like, I'm going to tell you why I needed it to change for me. Because you may be in the same situation, and we're going to start this series on the masculine and feminine energy with the masculine and how it can translate into PMDD. But I just remember waking up one day and I said, I need to go on a journey into the feminine. I didn't even know what the feminine was, but I just knew it was the opposite of what I was in, which was the masculine. I began to be so dissatisfied with my PMDD relationship because I was in this masculine energy. And it's weird because I created the culture of it. In the beginning, like I told you, my PMDD partner was in that masculine energy, and slowly but surely, I demasculated him and chipped away at his masculinity to where he felt like the only way to still be with me was to go inside his feminine energy. And that is, it's horrible when I realized what I was doing or what I had done after the fact. Like by the time I realized it, I had already done it. So picture me and my PMDD partner where he's deep in the masculine or he's deep in the feminine and I'm deep in the masculine. And I had this, not only just this toxic masculinity, but I had this toxic independence where I was obsessed with being alone and doing my own thing. And that's when he became clingy and needy and became a burden. And so when I looked at my PMDD partner one day, when I said, something has to change, I was like, what are the things that I was complaining about my PMDD partner? What were the things that I felt were missing? And all of the things that I was complaining about were the same masculine qualities that I was missing. And I realized I was the cause of that. Because I'm like, I would never be with someone who didn't have masculine energy. So because I felt like I was in my feminine energy, but what happened was over the years, I developed a masculine energy because I felt like I had to. I was put in so many situations of being in that masculine energy because I didn't have people to support me, that I had to show up for myself. And that caused me to dive deep into that masculine energy. Now, I would say for some, it can be beneficial at work, but then when you come home, you need to switch it off. Whereas I came home and I still needed to have that masculine energy. So I'm a boss at work and I have a staff. And so I need to be giving that leadership, giving that direction, doing all the things. And then I come home and I have our daughter, and I was homeschooling at the time. And she's in high school. So I'm like, hey, these are your assignments. You need to do this. You need to do that. I'm going grocery shopping, making sure she has all the food that she needs. I'm walking our dog. I was leading everything in our life with no help because me and my PMDD partner lived apart. And so I started to get bitter and resentful once I got burnt out from being in this masculine energy. And that's where the complaining started, where I was complaining, you need to do this. And I was saying, he doesn't do this and he doesn't do that and he doesn't do this. And that was a cry for help. It was a cry for help because I got burnt out. I thrived off it in the beginning, but then as time went on, it got so hard that I just felt powerless to get any form of relief. And I started to miss parts and aspects of my feminine energy that I wasn't able to mix together because I just genuinely didn't have time to, because I had so many things going on that I was in charge of, that I was leading, that I was directing. And so when I went on this journey, I said, I need to go on this journey about the feminine and masculine energy because I don't think my relationship is going to survive without me going on this journey. And it was so hard for me because I had just said I was going to have a conversation with my PMDD partner. And in my mind, everything was his fault. It was going to be his fault because he was lacking all of these qualities, AKA masculine qualities, until I did some of the work and I realized the only way that he's going to change is if I change. The only way that he's going to go into his masculine energy was if I went back into my feminine energy. And that's what I want you to know, is that there is a shift that can happen. So if you're listening to me and you're like, oh, that's me, I'm in my masculine energy, there are things that you can do, tools you can use to shift yourself out of that masculine energy of giving and doing to being in that feminine energy of being and receiving, which sounded amazing to me, which showed why I was so obsessed with the spa. My PMDD partner was like, every gift, every holiday, I would want to go to the spa. And he's like, what is your deal with the spa? And then one day he brought it to my attention. He said, I understand why you like going to the spa, because you lay there and you allow them to take care of you, whereas you live a life where you're taking care of everyone else. And you just want some time to where someone is taking care of you. And when he said that to me, not only did the light bulb come out, like it came on, but I had such a love and respect and adoration for him that he was in his masculine energy of being so analytical of what was going on, that he was able to see what was happening in a way that I didn't even see it in the moment. And so I needed to go on this journey of really just, the first step was just recognizing I'm in this energy and recognizing the cycle of it. Because I used to say, when I'm in my follicular days with my best friend, Angie, I would be like, girl, I had the patience of Mother Teresa. And what that meant was I was in my feminine energy, meaning my PMDD partner can say all these things, do all these things. And I was non-reactive. I was very loving. I was just like, oh, okay, babe, I understand. And it happened for me even today. Today, my cycle came on and my PMDD partner in a conversation with me said so many things that triggered me that would have made me go off before. But because I'm in my feminine energy, AKA my follicular days, I just let him get it out. Because my PMDD partner is one of those type of individuals that needs to go worst case scenario before best case scenario. He's like initially a pessimist and then turns into an optimist. So whenever I bring something up, he immediately goes into what's wrong with that course of action, why that's not going to work. And that triggers me when I'm in PMDD and I'm in that masculine energy, because I'm very combative. I'm like, no, it is going to work out. And here's why. And then I give him bullet points and all these things. And it's the need to prove myself to him and all of these things. And whereas when I'm in my feminine energy, I could care less whether you agree with me or not. I just want to make sure you're good. Like, if you don't agree with something that I'm saying or doing because you're giving me some kind of, direction or something, I'm more so like, okay, I'm so detached from having to prove myself because I'm not in my masculine energy that it doesn't bother me. And I want to tell you that, again, I just want to preface again, gender roles don't matter in this scenario, because it shouldn't be that if you are this type of person that you should be this way. No, there is a need for a balance in your intimate relationship with your PMDD partner. That's what I do want to say. I've not seen two masculine energies successfully work 100% of the time. Career-wise, yes, because if you're both go-getters, like me and my PMDD partner used to call each other twins, but I think the masculine and feminine energy had a lot to do with that, because one time, because we both lift weights, like when we work out, we lift weights. And he said a comment to me when he was in the car one day. He's like, I need to get back in the gym. I'm getting soft. Because like what he was referencing was he was lifting heavy. And if you don't lift heavy, or if you lift heavy and then you stop lifting, all of that muscle turns into fat. And then you basically get soft. So he was like, oh yeah, I need to get back in the gym. I'm getting soft. And I was like, yeah, I need to go too. I am too. And he said, but you're a woman, babe. You're supposed to be soft. And guess what? I was in my masculine energy and I brushed that off. But that is stuck with me for years, because I was like, oh my goodness. Like he was literally telling me the expectation when he called us twins, which is something we connected on, the expectation was not for me to mirror him. It was for me to support him and be on my own journey. But the expectation was that I was in that soft place. So when he said, babe, you're a woman, you're supposed to be soft, he was talking about I was supposed to be in my feminine energy. Right? So he was saying, if I'm in my masculine energy, basically, you're supposed to be in your feminine energy. Like, basically, he was asking, why are you trying to be hard? Why are you trying to have hard muscles? I remember one time we were at a conference somewhere and he saw a woman, I think she was at a conference, like a bodybuilding one. And he was like, oh my gosh, look at her. That's so disgusting. And he was talking about the bodybuilder. I was so much in my masculine energy. I'm like, that's beautiful. Like, what are you talking about? Like, look at her muscles. Look at this. And he's like, I would never want to be with someone like that. And I was so triggered because that was a reflection of the masculine energy for me. A woman who was strong in whatever it is that she was doing, and she physically looked strong. I lifted heavy weights at the time and I wanted to be strong. And in my journey, one day, I started trying to put on this jacket. It was this leather jacket that I adored. It was like a maroon color. And it was like, just came to my waist. I would wear it with jeans, a skirt, all yoga pants, like all the things. And I tried to put it on one day. And when I put my arms through, it wouldn't fit because I had gotten so bulky in my arms and my back that the jacket no longer fit. And that's when I had one of those moments like, oh my goodness. Like I pretty much am in like my masculine energy so much that this really feminine jacket that I love and adore, I can't even fit anymore. So if I've gone so far to grow myself physically to a place of masculinity, what have I done emotionally in my relationship? That was the question I asked myself. And that's what caused me to have that self-awareness and look back and be like, look what you did. Look what you did. You turned your masculine PMDD partner into a feminine one by your actions. And it was that matter of taking responsibility that made me see everything more clear. As long as I was going to try to fight it and make excuses for it and say, oh, he could do what he wants to do. If he wanted to be masculine, he would, as if I was completely removed. That could have happened, but it would have taken us way longer to get to any kind of conclusion, because the conclusion came from me being open and honest and receiving the fact that, yes, my masculine energy masked my partner's masculine energy, and I needed to fix it. And the only way to fix it was not to have a conversation with my boss, my PMDD partner, anybody else that I had connected to with that masculine energy. The goal was to just get into the feminine energy. That was the way I fixed everything. And I was like, well, what does that look like? I don't even know what that looks like. I heard about it. It sounds really woo-woo. You know, like it sounds like I'm about to go to Bali in an ashram and just like lay there like that movie Eat, Pray, Love, which is one of my favorite movies, if not my favorite. Like I love Julia Roberts, all of her movies, like Runaway Bride. Oh my gosh. Like if I could find, I don't know if it's on Netflix, Peacock, Hulu, but I could watch that like every single night. That and Notting Hill. Like I just love Julia Roberts. She's such like the romantic comedy person for me. Her and also, you know, Jane Fonda, that movie. Oh my gosh. Where she was like the stepmom. Anyway, so with Jennifer Lopez. Monster-in-Law. That's the other one, which has this hilarious scene in it where she's like cleansing herself because she had just came from like an ashram and wherever, and she was cleansing herself and she was like, please rid me of these evil spirits and please cleanse me of my wickedness. And I literally posted a meme or a reel of that on Instagram and said that's exactly how I feel when I'm doing my morning routine and I'm in PMDD. I'm like lighting the sage and like, please cleanse me from these evil spirits. But yeah, it just, the masculine energy is useful, but it's also abuseful in a sense of abuseful is not a word. It's abusive in a sense where it can be toxic. And I was in that realm and it was causing so much damage to my PMDD relationship. So now that I've described to you what the masculine energy looks like, these are ultimately what not to do, right? I'm going to talk to you about getting into the energy that is most in alignment with who you are for the next episode. So I'm not going to say if you're in masculine, go into feminine. If you're in feminine, go into masculine. I'm going to allow you to be so intuitive to figure out what works best for you. But you do need to join the PMDD Partners Breakup Proof Academy. I'm going to go way deeper into this with workbooks, which you get with every session and in the customizing it to your PMDD relationship, because this way you can bring up examples like I did. Like all of my tools work best with examples. If you're really bland and like, just love each other, like that's not going to work. Like, what does that look like? I always say that to clients because that's what I was wondering when I was going to like counselors and therapists and motivational speakers and stuff when I was struggling before I knew PMDD was a thing. And they would say stuff like, you just need to, you know, be self-aware. I would always say, well, what does that look like being self-aware? And what does that look like? Because like, I need to see it. I need to see it in action. So if that's you, join the PMDD Partners Breakup Proof Academy. Come on there, learn more about this series. And most importantly, come back next week because we're going to be talking about the feminine energy and how it impacts your PMDD relationship and just really understanding what kind of energy you're in. Like if nothing else, come watch the next episode so you can figure out which one is you so that you don't do damage to your PMDD relationship and we stop the monthly PMDD breakups. We got this. I hope this PMDD episode helped you and your partner in your struggles within your relationship. And if this is something that you know that you need help with and you need further support, individualized support, make sure you're going to inlovewithpmdd.com and you're getting those private sessions to really work through what you're going through in your relationship, specifically in regards to PMDD. And also, I want you to leave a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts. What this does is it helps other PMDD sufferers and partners find this show that can help them get these free PMDD relationship tools. I remember what it felt like to not know that there were tools out there specifically for PMDD relationships. So I want to make sure that you are sharing these tools with others, share them on your social media, share them with people that you know that are also struggling in their PMDD relationships. Until next episode, this is Dr. Rose, your PMDD relationship psychotraumatologist. One more thing. I almost forgot. I now have the Fresh Start PMDD Partners Workbook. What this workbook can do is if you've had past traumatic experiences with your partner, past fights, past arguments, and they keep coming up every single month in PMDD, I created a Fresh Start workbook so that you can deal with all of the traumatic experiences that have happened in the past in PMDD rage and all of these things so you can stop going through the same cycle again and again and again. So get that workbook. It comes with a video episode of the actual podcast that I recorded on getting a fresh start in your PMDD relationship. So you're not continuing the same cycle again and again and again. So make sure that you get that workbook. And if you need those individualized counseling sessions, you know where to go, inlovewithpmdd.com. Until next time, we got this. Love you.